Hello and welcome to another video. Now, on our projects list that we're working through at the moment, the next project is getting this Bolens G12 working, which this tractor is fitted with a hydraulic lift kit, which is quite rare for the geared tube frame tractors. However, you may have noticed the cylinder is missing. Now that is because a couple of years ago we borrowed it to go on this tractor, the 1971 Bolens Husky 1054, which, as you can see, also has a hydraulic lift kit. Now, we borrowed the cylinder from the G12 because this cylinder, the original for this tractor, was sinking, which we guessed was seals needing to be replaced. Now, we hadn't actually gone around to that until recently when we did, and we also gotten this tractor working. Now, you may remember from our tractor show video, this wasn't actually working then. Now, we tested the electrics, it was all good. It had a spark, and but it didn't have any fuel. These Wisconsin engine carburetors, sometimes the float valve can be stuck, so we just gently tapped it to try and sort it out, and that worked. And now that the engine runs and it drives, and my cameraman stood on the sleeve hitch that we put on here to test the cylinder, and now that the cylinder has been rebuilt, that all works. So today we're going to be rebuilding the original cylinder from the G12, here it is, and we're going to be doing this as a how-to video to help anyone else that's doing this, because we have heard of people in the past damaging the cylinders from not knowing how to do this properly. But first, we're going to clean up the cylinder to make sure no debris gets inside of it. Now, the main places where you need to do this is around the unions and on both ends, which we're going to use some WD-40 and a toothbrush for. Right, now we've got the whole cylinder cleaned up. It's easier to take the two bolts out to get everywhere you need to. Now, these are the new O-rings we're going to be putting in, which there's four, three big, one small. One goes at this end, another one goes at this end, and this one goes in the middle here somewhere with a spacer each side. And then there's this small one that actually goes on the piston. Now, the important thing about this cylinder is how you take it apart and how the ends are held in and everything like that, which these ends are actually held in by the unions and the threads go into them, which the other end you can't see, but it's here in there. Now, what you want to do then is firstly to take the unions off. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a soft face in the vise like that, and then just undo both of the unions. But what you need to be careful of is the fact that there's probably with the piston in, there's probably about that much of hydraulic oil still in the cylinder, so have something ready to catch it with. Right, we've got the cylinder in the vise now. You can see we've put these rubber pads between the vise jaws and the cylinder. Now, before we've taken these off, we've put some red tape on this hose because we believe the hoses are different lengths, so we know which one is which. Red tape on there, and then red tape where the union goes into the cylinder, just so we can remember. Obviously you can take them off once we've done the job. Now, the easiest thing, it seems, to get unions off would be a big old pair of Stilsons. However, that would leave marks from the grips on the unions, so we're going to be using an adjustable spanner instead. Right, we're now doing the second one. And remember, this will be the one that's going to be full of hydraulic oil. There you go. So we've progressed a bit now. We're trying to get this end out, which to do this we put a 1/2 inch bolt through the hole here and then put onto it our slide hammer. And as you can see here, it's already started to move, but I'll just try and get it out some more. Right, now it was extremely difficult, but we've got this end out now, which this is the end that was in there. This also revealed the large O-ring that's on here, and it was probably so difficult because you can see the orange colouring of the rust. Then in the end here, in here, would be the small O-ring, which we will show you how to get to in a second. Then there's another big O-ring on the piston here, as I said before, with a spacer each side. And in the end, the slide hammer wasn't actually enough to get it out, so we put some protection over this bit and then tapped it out using a hammer and a drift. Now the next job is to take off the cylinder end that was in here. As you can see, it's got, with both ends on, you can't get it off. Now the reason for taking it off is so that we can put the new small O-ring in, which is inside there. So we're going to undo this end because both ends are on threads. So our plan is to put some rag around the piston, then use our soft jaws on the vise just to hold it while we undo it. The reason for doing this end and not that end is because you can see, even though we're going to use thread locker when we put it back on, you can see if this is moving or comes undone eventually because it's on the outside of the cylinder. This you can't because it will be going up and down inside the cylinder. We're back at the bench now, and as you can see there wasn't enough clearance for our soft jaws, so we used some wood instead, and then we have the rag around the piston to protect it. Now I'm going to do like before, and I'm going to use an adjustable spanner to try and get this off. And I'm expecting it to be quite tight, so we'll just see how this goes. That really wasn't tight at all, which kind of confirms our suspicions that this cylinder has been apart before. With the other end off now, we can take this out, and you can see in there the O-ring, the small one goes in there, and we'll get to that in a second. But last bit for disassembly is taking this other end out, which we have this conveniently sized piece of timber here, which we slid in there, and then you have to hold this quite tightly and then hit this with a hammer. And I shall get my cameraman to hold the hydraulic cylinder while I hit it to make it easier. Finally now we have this other end out, and you can see the other seal is on there. which means that we can take all of the old seals off now and clean all of the components up. Quite a lot later now, and we've cleaned everything up, and while we were at it we put all of the O-rings on, including the small one. However, we had a bit of a snag there because the one that we bought was too small, because this is the later lift kit, which meant that the piston diameter is 5/8, whereas the one on our other tractor is 1/2 inch, which is the right size, which this is the right size O-ring for, whereas we needed one this size. However, luckily in Dad's box of O-rings there was a spare one that was the right size, so we put that in there instead. But now we're ready to just reassemble all of it. We've inserted the back end now, and I'm going to be gently hitting it down with this hide hammer until the thread is in the centre of this hole. Right, now that we've got the other end in, we've put the rod end on while putting some thread lock on there as well. What we're now going to do is put the piston in, which we've put some hydraulic oil on both the seals and inside the cylinder, and this is to make it go in there easier. And what we definitely do not want to do is snag either of the seals on the inside of the hole there, which could damage the seal and mean we might need to get a new one or use a different one. So to make sure that doesn't happen, both me and my cameraman Dad will be doing this, so there won't be any footage of putting this in. We have it all assembled now, and all we need to do is put the unions on with the hoses. Doing the back one first and then we'll do the front. We finally have the cylinder fully rebuilt now. That's the first time we've actually rebuilt one of these cylinders with the hydraulic hoses still on the unions, which was a bit more difficult, but it's still, I think, worth leaving them on there. Now, to mount it back onto the tractor, it's quite an easy installation, so we won't show it on the video. This front bolt goes through here, and then as you bolt it up, you'd position this so that this decal, when you make the cylinder lift or lower something, it can go up or down. But that goes through this hole on here. Of course, this would be what a normal lift lever would attach to if it wasn't a hydraulic lift kit model. And then the rear bolt would go, the cylinder goes through here, and then there's a part back here that the hole that it bolts through. You can see the hole there, which is easier to see on the Bolens 1054 here because it has the earlier smaller fender design. This is the exact same bracket that's on the other one, and that just bolts through there. And while we're here, give me a second to get the rebuilt cylinder. and you can kind of see the difference in piston size between this one, which is 5/8, and this one, which is 1/2 inch. We have everything on the cylinder connected up now, which the hoses were a bit more difficult than the 1054 because of the different exhaust that's on this tractor compared to 1054. But now that it's all on, we'll need to, once we get the tractor running, cycle the fluid a couple of times, make sure it goes through all of the cylinder and everything, and then it'll need topping up once it's gotten through all of the hoses and into the cylinder. But that's a job for another day. I hope this has been useful for anyone trying to do this job. Usual disclaimers apply. This definitely isn't the only way of doing this, and it might not be the best way of doing this, but it's our way of doing it, and now you know our way of doing it. So I hope it's been helpful, but thank you, Aeroplane. But that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Please subscribe to my channel, like this video and see our other videos. More to follow as we do more on this tractor. Bye!